Pork buns are loved by people of all ages in Portuguese Macau, but not when they hear this case. A family of 10 was brutally murdered and dismembered in their own restaurant, and the murderer was believed to have fed human buns to their customers, ultimately turning them into cannibals. The case of the missing family of 10 soon came to light on the 8th of August 1985. A swimmer at Haxar Beach in Macau found 8 pieces of human limbs, including 4 right hands. Therefore, they immediately notified the police. When the police arrived, they originally thought these people were killed by sharks. However, during the examination, they found the limbs were cut precisely, suggesting they had been severed. This prompted a police investigation and a search in order to find out who these limbs belonged to. Over the following weeks, more body parts were discovered on beaches in Macau. The last body parts that were linked to the murders were found in a trash bin in 1989. After finding out an entire family was missing, as reported by their relatives, police discovered that the limbs belonged to the Zheng's family. The police found it weird how Huang was running Zheng's business, but people knew he was close to the family as he had previously worked for them. The police also had no evidence to suggest Huang killed the family at the time, but found it suspicious how he was collecting rent from the family's property. Questions started to arise, the main one being who was Huang and how did he meet Zheng? Huang Zhiheng was born in mainland China before he immigrated to Hong Kong in the 1970s. Huang was found guilty of killing an unnamed man in Hong Kong. In order to escape his imprisonment, he fled to Guangzhou in China. After a few years of living there, he married his landlord's daughter. The couple was then forced to run away as the woman's family disapproved of Huang. However, before leaving, Huang burned off his own fingerprints in order to avoid being tied to the murder in Hong Kong. Huang loved to gamble, and one day when he was gambling in Macau, he met Zhang Lin. During a series of high-stake bets against each other in 1984, Huang won 180,000 yuan from the Zheng's couple. Ultimately, the Zhengs were unable to pay the debt, but this problem was resolved with a verbal agreement that the Zheng's couple would give up their restaurant called Eight Immortals Restaurant to Huang if they can't pay the debt in a year's time. However, a year passed and the Zhengs were still unable to repay their debt, and according to Huang, their debt only continued to pile up as they kept losing to him. In total, Huang claims the couple owes him 600,000 yuan. So the big question is, how was the family of 10 murdered? The murder happened on the night on the 4th of August 1984. The 9 members of the Zheng's family were busy working in the restaurant. During this, Huang entered and demanded a partial repayment of 20,000 yuan. However, Huang grew agitated when Zhang Lin not only refused to pay any money, but also refused to hand over the restaurant, just as he had promised. He said there was no written agreement, so theoretically he owed him nothing. Upon hearing this, Huang got extremely aggressive and resorted to violence, breaking a beer bottle using the sharp glass as a weapon. He then took the couple's most loved son as hostage and forced the family to tie each other up while he held the weapon against the neck of the couple's son. During this, one of the family members broke free and started to scream for help, which further agitated Huang. So Huang then stabbed her in the neck with a beer bottle, piercing glass through it. He then proceeded to either strangle or stab the 9 members of the family. His last victim was the couple's son. Before his death, he said, "My aunt will call the police when she noticed we are all missing." Unfortunately, this didn't stop him from killing, but in fact reminded Huang to kill their aunt as well. He then called her mobile and said her brother's son was extremely ill and asked her to go to the restaurant immediately. After successfully luring her into the restaurant, he then proceeded to kill her. He then dismembered the 10 bodies in 8 hours, which he later wrapped in plastic bags and disposed it by throwing it into the ocean or into the bin. Afterwards, he took cash and a safekey from Zhang Lin's dead body. Then he closed the restaurant, leaving a note at the door which said it will be closed for 3 days. The following morning, a delivery truck driver arrived at the restaurant as agreed with Zhang before his death. He found the restaurant closed and read the note. He thought this was extremely odd because Zhang was a very responsible person who always kept his words. Being curious, he walked to the family's home and to his surprise, Huang opened the door. When questioned where the family was, Huang only told the delivery man that the family had left for a trip to mainland China. Although he didn't believe him, there was not much the driver could do, so he left. But little did he know he became the key witness because he was also the last person to see them alive. After 3 days, Huang then reopened the restaurant and he was now the new boss. The police started to become suspicious of Huang's activities and began investigating him. When they started an investigation on him, they found documents that belonged to Zhang Lin and the student ID cards of the couple's children. Huang began to notice the police was getting suspicious of him, so he planned an escape path to mainland China just like he did before, but this time he was caught and arrested on the 28th of September in 1986. Shortly after, he was convicted and charged with the murders of all 10 members of the Zhang's family on the 2nd of October 1986. 4 days later, on the 6th of October, he confessed to the murders and told the investigators in detail how he killed each of them. This case attracted a lot of media attention with how cruel the murderer was, killing 10 people to include children and the elderly. The prison inmates too heard about this, and even though they too did some terrible things, but they were looking forward to Huang's arrival so they can beat him up. After his convictions, within 1 day of being in prison, he was badly beaten and sent to the hospital to recover, where he attempted to escape but failed. He asked the officers if he can remain in hospital as he was scared to go back into prison because of how badly he was treated by other inmates, but his request was denied. Soon after arriving in prison, he attempted to commit suicide, using a sharp metal piece to cut his wrist, but was saved by an inmate who saw what happened and notified the prison officers, and he was immediately sent to the hospital again. The doctors stopped the bleeding and he was saved. However, this didn't stop him from committing suicide for the second time. So on the 4th of December of the same year, he slit his wrist using a trash can lid while he laid in bed. He was discovered in the morning dead on his bed with a blood-filled duvet. Huang left a suicide note along with a letter to a local newspaper explaining what he had done. In his notes, Huang said his suicide was not his acceptance of his sin, but was rather a way to escape. Huang never confessed to having an accomplice, but police strongly believe he had someone to help him, especially given how quickly he dismembered all 10 of the bodies. From this crime, it was rumored that while Huang was running the restaurant, he had used Zhang's family's remaining flesh in the restaurant's signature pork buns and served them to customers, which to this day still sends chill down people's back. This was, however, never confirmed. Let me know in the comment section down below what your thoughts are on this case, and do you think he added human flesh to his pork buns to serve to customers? Thank you so much for watching. Please do support our channel by giving us a like, subscribe, and share this video with people who may find our content interesting. Stay alert and stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.